Yeah, what a life. Amazing. Yeah. Oh, the first part of my life, up to the age of about 13, it was just a dream. It was fantastic. Uh, Lots of outdoor activities, lots of family activities. Most of the entertainment we made ourselves at home. I did a lot of reading, became very bright, did well at school, did well in the church, did my best to be a good Christian. Uh, I left the Christians when they failed to deal with my developing sexuality. I was very confused. I was intellectual, and I was sexually aroused, but I had no social skills, no social life that was going to develop me social skills, and I found that Jesus didn't help me with that. But up to that point in time, I believed God had made everything, including me, and it was my duty to uh, follow Jesus' teachings exactly and help to make the world the kingdom of heaven. And I went off to university to study. Well, in secondary school, I went from a working class background to a middle class public school to receive a better education than my father. And this led to a very exciting period in my teenage years because I was cut off from the other kids in the neighbourhood who were going to the local comprehensive. They tended to bully boys like me in school uniforms. uh, but I didn't manage to make any real friends amongst the other kids at the school. We came from all over the city. Didn't get a close friend. Had a few experiments, but always ended up with my brother as my close friend. And my parents had brought us up to be equal and to treat each other as equal. So we were honest with each other and cooperative and helped each other. The parents used to punish me if he got into trouble, if he did something wrong or hurt himself and I hadn't stopped him. I got punished. So I was my brother's keeper from birth. As a double team, we managed to handle things that neither of us could have handled alone. Uh, but it probably meant that as you got to the late teens, where average guys were just steering towards grabbing a woman, we were still steering towards uh, moving upwards socially, going to folk clubs and concerts and cinemas, theatre, uh, trying to develop some sort of social life in a better class of living. Lots of trouble with my mother regarding developing from a boy into a man. I wanted to assume some control over things like my clothes and my hair. and she wouldn't give up that control, and she insisted on making me appear how I didn't want to be. And we had lots of trouble in the house. See, Mum, although she went to church, didn't know very much about Christianity or God or religion or history or anything like that. Not very much at all. But she knew about keeping up appearances and making her kids appear more correct than anyone else's. So we had lots of noisy and violent incidents indoors. Well, we weren't allowed to display any disagreement with the parents outdoors. It had to be happy families, so that we get some holiday photographs where my brother Alistair and I are clearly frowning at the camera. This is not a happy experience. Because we just want to go the other way from the parents to smoke cigarettes. Now, in my generation, that was the crazy factor in your upbringing. Your parents, school, doctors, telling you that smoking's very bad and you shouldn't do it, and they're all puffing like chimneys, right? Which meant you want to be an adult, you're going to have to smoke. It meant your mum and dad are going to sit there and smoke in front of your face, and you're not allowed to do it. So you go out and get a social life elsewhere, outdoors, where you can smoke. And of course that develops a basic attitude. What the parents tell me is right might not be right. They tell me I'm not allowed to smoke, but they smoke. What else are they telling me not to do? So we had to experiment with that. And my mother cramped my developing sexuality by opening a big fat letter I'd got from my beautiful pen pal in Boston, Massachusetts, Paula. Man, she sent me a Bob Dylan album that had a track on it that was not available on the UK version. Yeah. And I was getting a really exciting correspondence going over a year, and a bit longer and longer letters with more and more reference to adult material. Do you want to make out with me? We could do some necking. We could go steady. I wonder which of these words means, you know. And it was getting very exciting because being thousands of miles away, I could bluff anything I liked in my letters. I had wanted to be a writer all my life. I come from a family of letter writers. Whenever we're away from home, we tell everybody how we're doing and ask how they're doing, you see. So I was doing quite well in that department with my I actually changed the way I wrote the letter R to copy her fashion, which seemed to be most common in the United States of America. And it also happened to be the way my grandmother, my fairy godmother, did it, you see. So I changed that to get along with this chick, Paula, in America. And Mum opened the letter and devastated me at the age of about 15, 14 and a half, coming from school, all that excitement, because on the way home from this public school in Glasgow City, I used to spend an hour or two every day doing something exciting in the big city, exploring. and didn't get home in time for dinner. But Mum has made a huge scene. I think we've waited till Dad gets home. We've had the dinner. I'm wondering. I've been looking at the sideboard every day when I come into the living room because that's where the mail goes. Nothing for me. The last one I sent her was really hot because I included these pictures that the other boys in my class had let me have a tracing of. You kids, you won't understand the excitement there. Pictures, sexual detail, tracing them, making copies, and I'm sending one to America to be circulated around probably a high-class school in Boston. Yeah, and I'm wondering what her next bit's going to be because she's been telling some rather naughty jokes, for example. And I'm spending too much on this bit, haven't I? Yes, right. Well, Mum made it like a Gestapo busting me, in front of my brother and my father and my other little brother, and she pulled out the letter and she goes, "I've read this. It's disgusting. It's over." And my vision, I don't know if you've ever had this, but it seemed to me that the whole world was having an earthquake, Everything's going wrong, bad. And this is me being busted for something very bad. Discussing sexual matters with a female. Mum seriously damaged my life right there, really. I had to write and tell this girl it was finished. My mum read the whole pile of letters and then took them away. That was horrifying. And here, at the time, because of the world I was living in, it seemed it was me that was the one that got caught doing something wrong. Think about it. I'm now thinking about it as an adult who could have children that age, 14. He's got a letter from a girl in America. She says she's getting hot. Well, I would be really happy if my kid got a letter like that from America, wouldn't I? You look cute in your photograph. Your school uniform is really smart. I would like my kid to get it. Anyway, I'm just saying that's what my whole life. Really, I think what I got into cannabis for was to get back what my mother took off me at that time. She dared to control my life, my development for me, and provided no other form of sexual education or guidance for the rest of my life. Do this, go there, she's a nice girl. None of that. I never got that. Or maybe the one or two girls that she ever mentioned were nice girls, were the ones that played the acoustic guitar at the Sunday school and sang happy new hymns, like, "We're all with Jesus, Jesus, Jesus saves." Catching on with the folk song craze at the time, led by Bob Dylan, you see. Let's get the church with it. Yeah, and all the guilt complex, sex is sin. Yeah, this isn't going to be my memoirs, this is just going to be another little bubble with some funny smoke in it. Yeah. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah, yeah. See, sex has got to be somewhere between a guilty sin and a totally unrestricted orgy. You know what I mean? You want a bit of excitement in your relationship, but you don't want sex to be the dominant thing in the relationship. It seems, looking back at myself and other people of my generation, some people settle for unsatisfactory sex life in order to have a stable home and family. And some go for the gigolo non-stop uh, sequential uh, casual sex. That's a lonely ending, that one, casual sex. Um, there's got to be a healthy in between. Basically, I was working on it. I was doing what came naturally, which is, I would say to this girl, as much as I felt comfortable saying and asking, and she was doing the same, and we were doing something naturally that human beings have done since the beginning. I'm interested in women, but it looks a bit dangerous. I'll explore it carefully, because if I get one, that's my whole life going that way. Minefield. Mum says, put it away and don't look at it. When you're older and wiser, you'll be able to do a better job. It's true that I sublimated my sexuality until I was 30, devoting myself to learning intellectual and spiritual material. First going for the university education in psychology, finding it was a lot of bullshit, uh, using psychedelic drugs, joining the underground revolution, making the alternative society, studying Eastern religions, using the psychedelics to go for enlightenment. Getting into a bit of a LSD casualties today, and they're, like many of the LSD casualties, jumping into the new religions. I got into Scientology, not the Moonies, the Divine Light, the Hare Krishna, the born again Christians, or the Tibetan Buddhists, although I briefly visited them. Uh, this isn't going to do the story. This is more for self-analysis, just looking back at, why has my life been the way it is? Because I was told that sex is the last thing on your mind. You've got to go and find out about the world. What is it? Who made it? How did it get to be here? What's it all about? What am I supposed to do about it? What's my place in it? Well, eventually, thanks to LSD and Scientology, I came to believe that my place was working myself up towards being more in control of the universe. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was the basic sort of promise of Scientology. It will put you more at cause over things. Of course, we're dreaming that you're going to be able to move things around. Like when you see other students shouting at an ashtray to stand up and sit down in that chair, an ashtray, right? You think, well, I must be working towards a point where I can just go move that over there. And we're reading success stories from people who seem to be performing such miracles of telekinesis as preventing an air crash by moving a cloud out of the way, Scientology, what a laugh. Yeah, but I went beyond that because I thought, yeah, well, this is a good idea to get your mind under control, but at the end of the day, it would be better to have the mind under my control than under someone else's control. So I seized control of it back. It wasn't totally possible until I and my brother got back into cannabis, because on the first night that I smoked cannabis in 1986, I experienced all that I ever had hoped to experience in Scientology. I experienced existence as a long, eternal bliss, and that all that I was aware of was light, and time, I was outside time. I felt perfectly happy, perfectly euphoric, enlightened, no problem, no need, no desire, no suffering, bliss. Also, perhaps known as love, because it's very, very pleasant. And that revealed to me, this is all I expected to get from Scientology. Oh yeah, I also discovered that I was at cause, which is, what happens next? You decide. And at that point in time, I was what you would call on the street a normal person. That is, I got a time for getting up in the morning, a time for getting to work, a time for having a break, habits that I go around in the same pattern, schedule. So the scarcest item probably was free time. In my mid-30s, I was running around so fast, working hard, playing hard, resting hard, never getting enough sleep, running on nicotine and coffee. And then when I smoked dope, I realised the future is not penciled in yet. That whole habitual machine that goes, it's Tuesday, I've got to go to the doctor again. No, that seemed irrelevant, and I started questioning, why do this, why do that, why do this, why do that. I started noticing that the quality of entertainment or education on television was pathetic. And then I realised I got control of the video medium, I can make better stuff than that. So I started doing that. A documentary on myself and the marijuana, and what I discovered on the marijuana. Looking back at it now, I don't know why I assumed that anybody else would get the same out of cannabis as me. Maybe it was because my brother did, but we had grown from birth as twins. We kept backup recordings of each other's memories. I knew, I could bluff that I was him. I could remember all the important dates, names, and events in his life, and vice versa. So we were both imaginative. We were both trained in psychology and Scientology and Eastern religion and logic, rational discourse. So we thought, oh hey, this makes you into God. This is the highness of kings. This is godhood. It's now been confirmed by researchers that the charism, the Christ is anointed with contains cannabis. Yeah, right. Well, we're looking back as a bunch of jack-o'-lad whiz kids that have built up a business, made money, bought properties, filled them up with tenants, made money. And now we're looking, how can we spend the rest of our lives doing something that is both rewarding and good for the world, because that's what we really wanted to do, is leave a name on history. We did that. And it seemed to be bringing to the planet the truth of cannabis. First, that led to investigating why it was suppressed. Good God, man. You smoke it up and you go, why shouldn't everybody have a God experience? Right. Well, there's two reasons, obviously. One reason is they're not ready for it. They don't deserve to get that effect out of cannabis. They haven't put anything. You can't find that which you haven't been looking for. You could pick up a diamond. If you don't know what a diamond is, you could pick one up and throw one away, So some people, or most people, are in so much ignorance that cannabis wouldn't be of much benefit to them. It would be more confusing than helpful. Oh yeah, sure, the bliss and all that, but the mental phenomena can be frightening and scary, and that can produce unwanted physiological, you know what I mean, you freak yourself out and your heart starts rushing too fast. The other reason, of course, is that those at the top who control the power and the society have kept the cannabis highness as their sacrament, their secret thing. The Roman Catholic Church carefully managed to get it right out of the picture by inventing a whole lot of new ritual after Jesus was dead. Good God, I was just reading the major part of the trade in Europe up until the year 1000 was people going to Rome to look at or sit in Peter's chair. Peter, Jesus' disciple, is supposed to have had a particular chair that he sat on as the first bishop of Rome, and people from all over Europe paid a lot of money to come to that, and it involves a lot of business, buying and selling things along the way. Yeah. Anyway, half of the time since then I've been believing everyone should have the right to use cannabis and get what I get out of it. And some of the time I'm just thinking I should continue to use cannabis and use my inspiration in the way that would most benefit the rest of the community. So I've worked on both these approaches ever since. In every place where I've lived, Oxford, Tunbridge Wells, Glasgow, and even in Bowness, and when certainly in Glastonbury, I try to develop a smoking culture. I try to develop the activity of human beings meeting together in a public or semi-public place to use marijuana together to explore the social benefits. Right? All right. I think that when MI6 first came into VIP services, Right, VIP Services, 1986. That's the business that Alistair and I set up in Royal Tunbridge Wells. We alone knew what the purposes were. We referred to a client. That is, when Alistair sent off for a catalogue of Rolex or whatever, Dunhill or Claridge's, please send me your catalogue on behalf of a client. I'm asking you to please submit your catalogue. I wrote and asked how much it would cost one of these ice-breaking cruise liners that go through the Baltic, because after I was on one, I thought, this is a great business, man. 12 stories, 2 or 3 nightclubs, 24/7 entertainment and bedding. Phew, a party boat. Yeah, it was a lot of dosh. I couldn't afford it at the time. But when you get on one posh company's mailing list, they might sell you to another posh company, and so we began to receive catalogues and such like things from lots of upmarket places. So we created an upmarket image. Yeah, well, the girl that come in to be my personal assistant in response to a newspaper advert, turned out her dad was an MI6 agent. She may not have come in to us deliberately. It may have been coincidental, but it may have been that she was planted there to somehow they wanted an angle on Scientology, because my brother and I were also attempting to expose the corruption in Scientology, which we had managed to get out of. So that's a possibility, because it ended up with in February 1987 in my house in Royal Tunbridge Wells. I was sitting there with my personal assistant Fiona Clark, whose dad's MI6, SAS. And I had one of the producers of BBC Panorama and the presenter of BBC Panorama, John Moneypenny, in my house to talk to me about the Church of Scientology. Well, as history has discovered, using the information I supplied these two gentlemen, Moneypenny and his director, who looked very much like MI6. Man with a red beard, whose name I can't recall. These chaps pumped this stupid, self-inflated, giggly, high man who's getting his end away, obviously, from his PA. So he's got a big head on. Yeah, let's handle Scientology. Him, you want to talk to him, you want to talk to him, you want to talk to him. And they went off and made a program that blew the lid off Scientology, and it's been sinking ever since. That may be what that girl came into our offices to do, because Her Majesty's government certainly did want to pull down Scientology, and by that time, so did I, reluctantly. Frankenstein looked at his monster and he thought, I'll have to disassemble it. Yeah. But the terror started when we actually put up, I spent quite a long time typing up a proposal to Channel 4 television for a series of documentaries in 1987, bringing out the truth about cannabis that I had already discovered. You know, high-level Freemason rites, Shiva in the Hindu, the bhang that's traditional all through the Hindu countries. Islam uses it. It's been taken out as a secret ingredient in Christianity. I knew all that back in 1986, and I typed up this proposal. Let's look at it, you know, as a medicine, as a social drug, you know, pleasure palaces like in Bangkok, you know, with different rooms decorated in different styles with different kinds of music for leisurely use of cannabis. You know, like the scented gardens that the Hashishins were taken to for the programming. Man, all that nonsense. Hashish makes assassins 24/7. 9/11. Oh yeah, I just finished that joint in the bog and then I'm going out there to shoot the captain. Terrorism, man. Cannabis, yeah. Anyway, that didn't work, you know, going up the front door of Channel 4. But was not at this time. Not at this time. Some years later, when my brother was dead, Channel 4 did a whole day of programming on cannabis. The population, the viewing population, responded by almost unanimously phoning in to vote for legalization. And as always, total ignore. So I discovered at an early point that cannabis would not be liberated by going up to a government and asking them to consider that they'd made a mistake earlier. Because the more investigation we did into government and drugs and history, the more it became obvious that there's people, the East India Company, for example, who established Hong Kong as a base to pump opium into China and suck the gold, cotton, silk and tea out of, and silver, out of China in exchange for opium that they didn't need or want, really. Yeah, that is part of your British Empire, you know. So that all through history, at any point in time, you know, when they're debating matters in Parliament, there are people present who represent the those who are making a profit out of corruption. You know what I mean? Armaments, cocaine, heroin, that's what makes the law. Well, rather it's money, isn't it? It's money that makes the law. And there's more money all round for everyone with cannabis restricted. In it, because cannabis would lead to less war, less need for alcohol, heroin, cocaine, a fool's drug. You see, there are effects of cannabis that are not commonly known. You know, at the public level, They don't even know what you're talking about when you say cannabis. There are ways of controlling your own mind so that you can experience the effects of any drug just by telling your mind properly what you want. I'd like that total gonking, so gonking. Nah, this ain't no way to tell a story. Okay, still, it's good for me to just mention it. This is not the black box that shows how I crashed. They already stole my black box. It's amazing, man. I read a book once and it was about some sort of character that started on a riverbank and went and had a whole life and woke up and he was back on the same riverbank. Yeah, that's what my life feels like because uh, since 1986 I've been through incredible, that means not believable, adventure. Oh man, yeah, well, murder attempts. I've escaped murder attempts. You see, like when you eventually get pummeled down into a low social position where you're sitting in a corner, bereft of all your belongings because if you dare to ask for them, you're going to get killed. It doesn't sound like you've been flying very high, does it? No, no, no. There's millions of incidents that are so exciting. One of the first was rolling a joint in the street of Hong Kong, and then going, whoa, oh, chinky, me no chinky. Hey, I'm lit up like a light bulb. There he is, big one with the white hair. And, oh, smile quick. Because why? Because when you smile, there's millions smiling back. If you don't smile, there's millions not smiling. Yeah, I learned a lot there. And I remember one time in Tunbridge Wells when I was in Zion View, my little flat artist studio, and I look out the window down to the street and I see these two heavy looking guys getting out a motor car and that's in front of my door. Oh yeah, I'm up. I went up a trap door into the attic and pulled the ladder up behind me. Yeah, and you try not to cough. Uh, they were there to get me, you know what I mean? Like at any given point in time, uh, uh, lots of people would have been quite happy to hear that I was dead, and they wouldn't have inquired too much for explanation. Pity that. That's where my life has gone wrong. But I think to simplify it, what's happened is that those who were my fans and friends were so horrified by how I got shot away that they not only stopped following me, but they probably stopped smoking dope. Look, you know, because up to a point in each of the operations that I've had, like Glasgow, up to a point, I feel I'm getting a bigger and bigger following, man. You know, you just walk into the park and it's smile, 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 smile. And then when I start skinning up, yeah, skinning up, skinning up, skinning up, skinning up. Oh man, I'm getting there. And then, phew, socially down the toilet. That meant that other people in Glasgow were less inclined to make a public open stance. I use marijuana and I don't feel guilty about it. It's not a bad thing. Couldn't get anybody to do that. It means, of course, that the police or whoever can continue to control the supply, so the majority of cannabis is useless, and that means that it's pretty easy to shift cocaine. because kids who are no longer getting high on cannabis are lost and inclined to listen to the latest temptation. In my days, it was alcohol. You know, if you couldn't get dope or if the dope wasn't very good, you went heavy on the alcohol. And many of my generation just stayed on the alcohol. Made a right old mess of their minds and lives and health with alcohol. Younger folks seem to be going on to the cocaine, which I find is sad, because when we looked at the world from 1986 and see stress up the cannabis, you see cooperation, entertainment, humanity, compassion, fun, sorting things out, music, art, conversation. This is what cannabis promotes. Yes, dancing. Yes, more erotic sexual intercourse. In my estimation, a greater understanding and experience of love. Love in all its forms, as Joan Armatrading so clearly well illustrates. There are many kinds of love, more than one kind, and they're all enhanced by. You see, I actually simplified the theory. This is hypothesis. There's lots of scientists getting grants now to explore cannabis because of its commercial potential, but at one point I reasoned rather simply that anandamides, right? It says that cannabis hit the cannabis receptors, and that causes an infusion into the brain of anandamide, a bliss chemical, a euphoric pleasure chemical, hitting, reward round the brain. Yes. Now, I would hypothesize that that state was firmly also achievable through meditation and love and prayer. That is, if you can make a similar result in your brain with love as you can with cannabis, genuine cannabis, high. I suggest, for example, that when you're in love, you can feel like the king and queen of the world, so damn high. Yeah? Yeah? Is it not the case? All world problems are solved to him who is in love. And if you're in love of a different kind, it's the whole approach to life that you are enjoying it, because the more seconds you pass loving, the more worthwhile you feel your life is, the more you think you're getting out of it. You're spending your time wisely if you're spending it loving. And it may be that cannabis is only there as a teacher to show you this is what it feels like when you're in love. Now go and get it by other natural means. And that's what I'm going to say right now. Who will want to see this? Well, all it is truth, uncensored, and that is actually valuable considering how much this brain knows.